What's up guys, Shouri here, and today we are going to go over how to use 2 and 3 fingers to be able to play this game. And it is going to be on iPad today. Tomorrow I will put out a video on how to do this with phone. But first you need to go to the bottom left in your menu screen, and it's going to say settings. You're going to click that, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of options. So I'm going to make a full video on this after the 2 things about how to move your buttons around. It's going to go over this and all of these things, the controls, all the sensitivity, and every single thing that looks really complicated, but I promise it's not. I'll give you all the perfect settings, and I'll explain what everything does. It's really easy and simple. It's just a lot of information, so it looks very overwhelming. But don't worry, I will cover that and get you guys set up perfect. So that'll come out here in probably this week. But for now, auto firing, I like to have it off, and in this, you don't need it on. It's so much easier than you think to fire without it doing it for you, but if you want it on, you can have it there. But remember, in the later stages of the game, you're going to be at a super disadvantage having it fire for you because it's going to be slower than if you did it yourself. But having the left fire button on, I have mine off, but you can put it on if you want. Having it on just puts it up in the left side like you can see there, and it just, if you want it, you can have it. But in 2 fingers, you definitely don't need it, so it's really up to you. 1-tap ADS in fire, that is very important to put to fire while ADS. You cannot do any of this without that. The reason that this is important is when you hit this button, it will both scope and fire your gun. And that is going to be important if you're only using 2 thumbs. If you have a 3rd finger, you can use the scope and fire, and that's a lot better. But if you only want to use 2, and remember, you can start out with 2. I started out with 2 and became the #1 player in a different mobile game, so it's a lot easier than you think. So what you're going to want to do is go and make sure that that 1-tap ADS is at fire while ADS. Bolt action fire, I have for snipers, I have that to tap to fire. But if you play COD Mobile, you might have been used to release to fire, and that might be something you're more interested in. And in this setup in particular, I really think you should have release to fire because you're not going to be scoping by yourself, but you can if you want to. So for semi-automatic shotgun mode, you want to have either fire while you ADS, so whenever you shoot, it'll fire, or you can just tap to fire. I think you should have fire after ADS. I'll show you what that means. And then you have ADS mode. You're going to have hold, which I don't think you should do. Mixed, I don't know what that even does, but tap's really what you want. So if you tap the scope button, it'll stay scoped, and it's just better. And then keep your ADS button rotates camera on. So the next thing you need to do is go on the right side and click controls. So you're going to need to choose an interface between control 1 and 2. I definitely think your control mode should be left movement and right fire, and I have it floating. You can have it fixed or floating. It's definitely better to me to have it floating because I had my left thumb and it's never in the right spot. But for control interface, you can do one of 2 things. If you play COD Mobile, then control interface 1 is definitely going to be more familiar to you. If you play Apex Legends, control interface 2 is the Apex Legends like normal interface. I'm using that one right now, but I'm going to go ahead and use the COD Mobile one just because it's easier and it's going to be better with 2 fingers. So when you get here, it's going to have a ton of buttons and look very overwhelming. I promise it's a lot easier than it looks, and these buttons only show up on the screen when certain actions happen, so don't worry, it's not going to be this cluttered. It's not nearly as hard as it looks. So the first thing you want to do is go to 3 and 4 fingers. You're going to hit that, and it's going to say 3 or 4. You want to hit the 3 button. Don't worry, you can still use just your thumbs with this, and it says, do I want to keep current options? Sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to move some stuff around because we need it to be in different places to make it work. But Down at the bottom, you're going to have where your 2 guns are and all your heals and grenades. It's really easy and simple, and when you play the game, it will basically do everything for you to tell you what to do. But I like to first move the left fire button down and then have the mini-map over. We have the left fire button off, so it's not actually going to show up either way, but it's still better for me to put it down so we can move the mini-map and see it. And then the settings button is actually under this, and so is the Wi-Fi and your battery. So I just go ahead and put everything up there under it because it's going to be there anyways. So your ultimate is going to be a thing that your character uses. That is what this is. I like to have mine over here. This is what you're going to use more often, which is going to be your ability that happens like every 15 seconds. I like to go ahead and put all the things that are X'd out over here into the middle. And so we're going to have to resize some of these things to make them fit. So this button over here, I'm going to make smaller because it's not going to show up anyways. I also like to go to the left where auto sprint is and move that down. That way it will get closer to your thumb. And so when you push your thumb up, it will actually be able to sprint easier. Down in the bottom left corner is your first-person shooter mode or your third-person shooter mode. That'll change them between them. I like to put it up top with all the setting stuff, just easier. And then what you're going to want to do is go to the bottom right. And we're almost done, by the way. It's really easy and simple, I promise. This game is so much easier than it looks. And it's just a lot of information to take in. But what you're going to want to do is take that button in the bottom right that has the fire on it. That will actually scope and shoot for you. So you're going to want to move it to where your thumb can get to it. But you're going to want to leave space for your thumb to be able to move around without hitting the buttons. So I like to kind of make sure that there's just enough room and be able to have all of it work. So your reload button is really small in the very bottom right here. So what you can do is where size is, you can make it bigger. I like to have it right here because it's where your thumb can hit it, but it's not going to really affect you in a negative way. So it usually ends up being the best. This 4x2 thing up in the top right is actually not going to show up on the screen unless you're scoped and you have a variable scope, which can change between different sizes. They're very weird. You're not going to worry about that most of the time. But basically, if someone's further away and you're sniping, it allows you to hit them easier. And then moving the scope button, you're not going to hit this much with 2 fingers. So I just have it up here. And it's up to you if you want to have it bigger and in an easier access place. It really just depends on if you're going to be able to hit it or not. You may even, if you use 3 fingers, put it on the left where this is. And then you can use it that way. But it's all up to you. This right here under the reviving is actually a door. And that's how you open doors. We're going to have that on automatic. So it won't really be that big of a deal to have it. But sometimes if people are coming in, you can shut the door on them, and it can give you an extra second to heal. So right here, under the revive again, is going to be where you throw your grenades. It'll allow you to throw it longer or shorter. I've never used this button, and it doesn't ever come up unless you have a grenade in your hand. And if you have a grenade in your hand, you're not hitting another button. You're throwing it because someone's there. But it's there if you want to use it. You can put it somewhere. I don't actually use mine, so I don't even know where I have it, to be real. But we are going to now need to go over how to do crouching and jumping. And this is super important, and these buttons definitely need to be bigger. Not that big, though. I usually have mine around 150%. It takes up some space, but not too much. And it makes them big enough to where you can actually hit them. But there are some cool things about this, and I'm going to show you. And yeah, so basically this is going to be really about what you want to have. You can change any of these buttons to fit better to where you're at. And it's basically just going to need to have a bottom right side where you can clearly have your thumb path. And then you can also tap all the buttons. You may need to move these around some to actually get them to fit. These are just general areas of where they should be. Remember that you're going to not want to put them in this exact space because everybody's hands are different. And so your thumb may not reach where my thumb does, so these buttons might not work where they are. So you need to make sure that you test it out and you look, hey, where are these things? Is it going to work for my hand? And then make it move around until it's perfect for you. And if you need to move anything around, these aren't like strict rules. This is just a way to do it where you can play with just 2 thumbs. I'm going to move the thumb pad over a little so it's not over the bag. So all of these things are really easy, and I promise it is very overwhelming, but very easy. And then the last thing we're going to do is the little hand up in the top. We're going to move that down, and that one right there can only be moved when it's in the open window form. And we're going to move it to right here. This is how you get your loot, and it's also how you change between picking up things off the ground and picking up things that are inside boxes. So that's very important, and then it'll have a screen and show you what's on there. We're always going to have auto pickup on, but don't worry, it says off. That's not a thing. It's on. In the settings, we have that on. But pretty much, this is about what I like to do. But if you want to be a little more competitive with 2 fingers, which is going to be hard, I do really recommend you use 3 or 4 fingers. It's going to really be important later on in the game. But this is just to get you started and get you used to the game. And it's really difficult at first, and no one ever starts out with 3 fingers. So don't worry if you're not using 3 or 4 fingers yet. But you do eventually want to incorporate that because it gives you more control and it's just better overall. So what you want to do if you want a little more control is you can move this crouch button up here and then kind of move things to let it fit and then have it have room above it. And then you're going to save, and these will basically just be your controls. And what you want to do is go from basic to gameplay on the right side. And these settings, don't worry, I'm going to go over all of these. They're really complicated looking. It's a lot of information. But like I said earlier, it's super easy. And I will make sure that you guys have the right settings. And so what you want to do is have slide jump control onto easy instead of classic. And that will allow you to do something really cool. And so right here, what we're going to do is where the play button is to the left, there is an option to go from Battle Royale, Rank Match, Multiplayer, Tutorial level, or Free Practice, because that is going to be a nice training ground to look at what your buttons do, get used to them, and while you're in here, you can move them to make them better for you. And what you can do is go down this hill, and if you want to slide, what you do is you go forward and you're running. You can use the auto run. And then you hit your crouch button and it will slide. But we did that easy to jump thing. And so what you're going to do is when you slide, you go up and it'll actually flick you up into the air. And so you can jump slide. And that is really important. It can get you places faster and make you harder to hit. But what we're going to do is go up to a thing that has a weapon. And next to your fire button, which looks like a fist when you don't have a weapon, it'll be switch gear. Flatline and carbine are 2 of the best weapons if you're starting out. They're really easy to use, and that's what we're going to do. So your fire button now looks like a scope with a fire button, and it's going to allow you to hit it, and it'll immediately start shooting while scoped. And you have these different targets, and you have different dummies that are just around here. And you can even play little mini games here just to see exactly what you can do. And I'm not 100% sure how to even start it. I think you have to do up in the top right, and then maybe you can start it that way. You can have people come in here. You can do a whole lot of stuff with this. So it's definitely a really cool place, and it's really nice. So right here, okay, so you can get any scope you need, and it's just something that I really like. I think this is the greatest thing ever. They put this kind of thing in here, and it allows you to just do a lot of different stuff. And then there's a rope. As you can see, next to your fire button, there is this rope button. This is going to be how you use zip lines and ropes. And it's just basically going to give you a way to practice literally everything in this game. And so, what you're going to do is just shoot things, feel how your buttons are. You may need to move your scope down. You may need to do different things. These are just general areas the buttons are in. And because of that, you can just basically figure out which is good for you. And that's pretty much as good as it's going to get. As you can see, you can use all your buttons with one hand. What I would do is I would make the eye, which is for this character, a little bit bigger, and the same with his hunt, which is going to be his ultimate. So you can hit them easier and maybe put them closer together. It's really up to you. But like I said, it's just general areas, the sizing of the buttons. Everything is going to be unique to you. This is just about where they should be. And this diamond is how you ping something. So if you see like a weapon that's really good, but you already have good weapons, you can ping it and only your team will see it. And if you're actually looking at the weapon itself, it'll show them what the weapon is and announce the name of it. And then you can target an enemy and it'll put a red ping and it puts it on the mini map for your team so they know you're in trouble. As you can see in the top left, there is that little thing. That means that somebody is attacking you or your team. And so if you see that on the mini map, you want to go over there if your team's there so you can help them out. And like I said, it's just easy to shoot. And this game can be played with 2 fingers. You can do a lot of the things I do with 4 fingers. And yeah, like I said, this is just a general layout though, so make sure that you move things around to fit you. And everything really isn't that complicated. It looks like a lot of buttons at first, but you realize that, hey, it's really not that bad. So I hope this has been helpful, and I really appreciate you guys watching. I want to thank all the people who have donated and all the people who are channel members. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you all have a great day.